Start. I'm sharing my screen. Yesterday we stopped at this stage. Let's continue from there. So let's do it this way. Okay, so let me update the details here. This is the subscription ID. And tenant ID will be from here. I can get it. This is the tenant ID. Okay, I think we are good to get started with this. Verbose. Here also I'm going to add verbose. Yeah. So let me run these first. Yeah. So this one.
Can you give me the access to record?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll give you. Yeah. So it says I don't have permissions. Let me check the permission. So let me use the different account then. Okay. So basically I used, initially I used the outlook.com, which is not part of the directory or not the synchronized one. So after I added this, it is working fine. This account, not this one, this one. So this as permissions. Now let me run the last command. And in contest already, oh, okay. This name has to be modified. So we need to provide the name for the WVD tenant. Let's say the tenant name I'm giving as WVD UOC. Okay, like this I'm giving. Yeah, it is created a tenant and a tenant group. Okay. Now the next step is to create a Windows virtual desktop. Okay. So before that, let me show you the setup
So, what did we do with this? These two
here.
commands.
Yeah, the first one we are adding a RDS account. Okay, but they're using this. RDS account in this subscription and tenant. Okay, and we are getting a tenant, which means that we are going to provision Windows Virtual Desktop. Um, I mean the ID, I would say. Okay, so your virtual desktop is going to create under this. So it is in the back end, it is going to have a tenant for your WVD, whatever you're setting up. So under this, you are going to provision your WVD environment. Okay,
Okay.
this is called RDS
So this
tenant.
is after we provide that server app and client app
Yes,
permissions,
yes,
right?
yes, yes, correct. These are all prerequisites that we have to. I mean, it's like preparing the environment.
Mhm.
Clear? Then we have to
Okay.
go to marketplace and get this. All right. So these are the steps we are going to follow. So what we need to do is ideally the setup looks like this, right? So in general, right, do you have your on premises and you have your domain controller, right? Domain controller which has ADDS installed, I would say DC, and you also have AD Connect installed in the server. Okay, and you have your home users logging in, and you have your corporate servers, applications, everything. This is your on-prem. Okay, so now you are setting up a cloud environment, right? So in the cloud, you have something called Azure AD. This is your Azure AD. Okay, and you also have a VNet. Okay, where your WVD is going to be set up. Sit, right? WVD setup. So when they say WVD setup, let's say WVD is the service here. Okay, so this is the service which you are going to deploy in Azure, but this needs, I mean, when you enable WVD, you're going to enable session desktops, right? Those session desktop has to be part of a VNet. So you're going to have a subnet created. Okay. In this subnet, you're going to have your, let's say you're creating two machines, Windows 10 machine, VM1 and VM2. Okay. So these machines are going to be provisioned. But when your user is trying to access this WVD machine, there should be authentication done by your on-prem as well, right? What you generally set up is you set up the site-to-site VPN or point-to-site VPN. Site-to-site VPN you are supposed to be set up, okay, so that these VMs can talk to this AD for any authentication. Let's say you have a user, okay. So usually there will be URL, WVD URL. Your end users are going to access through browser, okay. Through a browser, they are going to access, and when they access the URL, they are supposed to enter their user ID password. They enter user ID password. Then the communication request go to AAD, and AAD will validate, authenticate, authorize. Okay. What happens is it's going to check whether the user exists or not, whether it on-prem ID or cloud, whatever. The next step what it checks is whether the user have access to WVD. So when I say access to WVD, the session desktop. If it has access, then this URL or browser will give another window where user need to enter another user ID password. This user ID password is the user ID password where user is using to connect to the on-prem AD and resources. Right? When they enter user ID password, the communication goes to the AD and authenticate. So basically here is going to get a login screen of this one of this machine. Okay. One of this machine is going to get a login screen where he is going to enter user ID password. This user ID password is given to get authenticated by ADDS. So there are two level of authentication here. One Azure AD level, the other one is on-prem AD level. Okay. So this is
I
one
thought the
method.
credentials are same for both
Yes, you can
cloud
use
and
the same
on-prem.
credentials. You can use the same credentials, but because the same credentials you're using, because the same
Hmm.
user account is synchronized. Okay. Okay.
Right.
The first level of authentication is happening to WVD URL. Okay. And it will also check whether this user have access to WVD or not. That's the first level of authentication.
Hmm.
Second level of authentication is to log into the client machine, like Windows 10 VM, right?
Right.
When
VM.
you log into Windows 10 VM, it has to perform another level of authentication, right? That authentication will be done by your AD. Okay. This is the
But why
second.
is that needed?
So you are logging into your laptop. You need to authenticate,
Right.
right? Right.
Right.
The same thing
That's the
you're
first
doing
time
here,
I'm providing my login. I mean credentials. Once I log in, I don't need to write.
right? So you are trying to access WVD, right? There is a URL.
Hmm.
You're not connecting to, you're not physically connecting anything. There is a URL you're trying to connect, correct? This is
Hmm.
one. When you enter user ID password, the authentication is done by WVD. It's RDS tenant, right? It's a different tenant, a different component. It has to authenticate with the, let's say, RDS component, right? So RDS is already integrated with AAD, right? AAD will check whether the user ID exists or not. It will authenticate. Then it will also do another level of validation to say whether this user have access to this component, this service that Microsoft is offering.
WVD.
See, you
Hmm.
have access to application one, application two, maybe you have access to session desktop one, session desktop two, right? So you may not have access
Hmm.
to everything. There should be somebody who has
Right.
to
Then
validate, right?
that'll be through the RBACs, right?
No, no, not our back. You are going to,
Okay.
once the WVD is provisioned, we are going to provide access to users in WVD itself. See, our
Okay.
back is just to manage the Azure portal. I mean, simple, right? But
Hmm.
here you are going to get a access to components. So you have access to application one, application two, application three, and the session desktop one. This is one session desktop, session desktop two, and all, right? When you log into this WVD URL, it is like your Citrix application, right? When you log into Citrix, you will see multiple applications, multiple session desktops published, right? So there you
Right.
are going to enter. When you hit enter there, right? There automatically it launches. Okay, sometimes. But
Hmm.
when you launch any application, it will automatically launch because if it has the application SSO configured everything. Otherwise, when you click on that, you have to enter the user ID password. Here you are going to enter the user ID password again to provide another level of authentication. See, when you log into this URL, you are going to see all the applications published for you. Maybe all the desktop published
Right.
for
Right.
you. Okay.
You'll see all.
Yeah.
Now you may
If you
not have
wanted to
access to all of
access
them.
the application, if you wanted to access that application, right, you will double click, right? You will open that. When you open
Right.
that, there will be another level of authentication because to log into this VM, okay, the credentials are managed by AD, right? So you have
Hmm.
to enter the AD credentials to log in. Let's see. I mean, once we set up, right, you
No.
will realize that.
Okay. So why AD? Why not AAD? Because both are in sync, right?
Yeah, both are in sync, but these servers are joined to this domain. You're going to join this server
Okay.
to the domain. It is like same as your on-prem infra. Only thing is
Okay.
that the virtual desktop environment, the you are not going to manage it,
Hmm. Right.
right?
That's your
Yeah,
pass.
right. So you will realize once we set up everything. Let's see. Okay.
Okay. Sure.
So here we don't have on-prem environment, right? So I have already configured DC in Azure, okay, in one of the subnet here. Let's say this is my DC. I'm going to deploy the WVD environment in the same subnet, okay, or different subnet within the same VNet, okay, the same environment,
Mhm.
whatever I was speaking. So it will be here itself in Azure in one of the VNet. So this is my DC
So
server,
can
and
I have these VMs in different subnets for the same WVD?
see, this is WVD, and
Right.
those WVD components has to be associated in the same subnet. This
Oh,
AD,
it
whatever
can't be.
as I was speaking, the DC, right?
Mm,
This can be
mm.
anywhere. It can be on
Right. DC
premise.
can be in another subnet, right? But can I have
WVD
two
and your
subnets,
VMs should be in the same subscription.
same subscription or subnet?
No, no, WVD is not subnet. It is a service, like
No, no,
your
right.
storage account, your VNet, something, right?
Mm.
You're
No, but
provisioning this
can you
WVD.
create the host pools in multiple subnets within the same VNet
Yeah, so this is one pool, right? You can create another pool in different, you know,
subnet?
subnet.
Okay,
Yes,
associated with the same WVD.
yes, yes, correct.
Okay, okay.
Okay, let's go ahead and provision these. This is the one. So when you enter this right number of users, it is going to give you the recommended size automatically. So it's going to provision two virtual machines with this size. So virtual machine name prefix, it's going to be WVD. So this is going to be a virtual machine settings. So what version we want? Let's take this latest version with which includes all Microsoft 365 apps. And this type we can go with the premium or standard. Let's go with the standard SSD and AD domain join UPN. This will be a domain name. Let me connect to the server on RDP first. Even if it is small mistake, right, it's going to give us a lot of errors. Okay, so these things I missed it. Okay.
What is domain join?
Which one?
The AD
Yes.
domain join?
Yeah, so we need to provide a UPN, right? The user account, user principal name, where it is going to This is our domain name, right? So the AD domain. So once the VMs
Mm-hmm.
are created, those VMs has to join to the domain automatically. So that's why we are providing these. So this is the AD domain join UPN. So using this, it is going to use this as a domain name, and it's going to join these machines to the domain automatically. As soon as the VMs are created, they will be joined to the domain.
Okay. Sure. So
So
this should be your what, the
on-prem
email
AD.
ID of
Yes, yes, correct.
global administrator
No, this is on-prem AD. This
on-prem
is
AD.
on-prem AD, right? Active Directory, not AAD,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
So this should be
But
on-prem
then
AD.
this is email ID, right?
Yes,
But they should at
it
least
is.
have a domain admin access, right?
Yes, that's right. 1 second, please.
This is as good as we adding the machine manually, isn't it?
Okay,
Those days we used to
this
do this.
account
Right?
is
We
not
have-
provisioned there. Okay, so
So
let
what
me
is the
add Adi's account. See, this is what user logon name. Okay, it's not the email ID. Email ID will be placed here. Okay, we have not enabled the email ID yet. It is a user logon. Are you getting my point?
it's the account you say, user account, not email account.
It's not an email ID. It's not an email ID. We have not enabled any email ID for any users at the
Hmm.
moment. It's a user logon name. We call it as UPN as well, user principal name. It's going to use this. Okay, we can either
Okay.
give this or that.
Okay.
Clear, Rakesh?
Mm, yeah, somewhat, not fully.
And what's the question? And where's the confusion? See,
So
basically, and
this is
let me explain you, right? In simple, as soon as the VMs are created, we need to join these machines to the on-prem AD domain. Okay, that we
mhm,
discussed. Do you agree?
yes.
Okay. Then how does this VM knows that what is the directory name of this, domain name of this DC, right? And what account
Mm.
it has to use to authenticate, right? That's where we are going to give.
Okay, so this is the account for the you know on-prem AD.
Correct, correct. That's right.
Okay.
If we relate this to the olden days, we used to have something like, leave the PC in the work group or add it to the domain. So here
Kind of, right, right.
we are
You see,
adding it to
right? Yeah. UPNF an active directory user that has permissions and will be used to join virtual machine to your domain. Okay. This is the
Hmm.
UPN, right? For example, this is the UPN. A local user account with this name will be created on each virtual machine. Do not enter a user who has MFA enabled. You're getting my point, right? So this account
Hmm.
has permissions. The account has what is that? Domain admin and enterprise admin. He's a super master. He has full
Now,
permission.
so in a real use case, so let's say I have you know my on-prem where I have database, I have ETL product and application server, or whatever you call it, right? Now, how would I figure out? I mean, how would I know this UPN, and from where do I get that?
This is the domain admin account in simple. Okay, you will have your Windows administrators, Wintel administrators who manages the
Hmm.
Active Directory, right? So we are
Okay.
going to provide one of the account here to you know authenticate and join these servers to the domain. This is used for domain join. So in the real time scenarios, right, we will not use the direct email ID. I mean the UPN. We'll use a service account.
Hmm.
There will be something called service account. So there will be
Okay.
a dedicated account that will be created for this purpose. Okay.
Hmm. Okay. So basically, that's something we'll have to get it from. Windows admin folks, right? I mean, who's have been
Yes,
managing
yes.
those systems.
Who has domain admin access? Okay,
Okay.
clear?
Yep.
Okay. So going to the next, this is the Windows desktop tenant group name and Windows Virtual Desktop tenant name. So this is where we have created, right? It is taking default tenant group. Okay. I'm going to give the same and Windows Virtual Desktop RDS owner. It is UPN, not the service principal. Okay. And why it is asking again? Okay. Enter the Azure ID who has either RDS owner or RDS contributor permissions or Windows Virtual Desktop. Okay, this will be, see, there are two level of authentication it is happening. One is to join the domain, the other one is to authenticate with the RDS. So here we have to use these accounts, the global admin who has access to this. So this one. But what it says is at the rate on Microsoft.com. So let me do one thing. Let me give some other user account with the on Microsoft.com user. So this user account I'll give and node roles I've assigned. Okay, so let me first reset the password for this guy. Okay. So my apps.surf.com, because we need to be very careful in these, otherwise it's gonna ask us to redo the work. I'm going to say one simple at 123. Okay. Now I'm going to provide this. And this account has global administrator rights. Okay. So let me provide here password. Okay. We are at the last step. Let's see. And this account should also be part of this group. Windows Virtual Desktop. Users to add test. Uh, Okay, so for two of them, he has access. No, validation has failed. Okay, there are no quotas available. Hmm. There are two machines that are supposed to be created, guys. But in this region, in East US, already the quota is reached. So it is already having 8 virtual CPUs, which is already crossed. So I need to reduce the size. Let's say how much it is asking. It's saying 8 virtual CPUs are needed for this itself. Let me click on change size. I just need one virtual CPU for each. Not 8 virtual machines it is taking. Oh my god. Say 2. Okay. It is going to create 2 machines with one virtual CPU, but it will be very slow. Let us choose this. Okay. Okay, fine. So this one has 8. This one two means like 4 virtual CPUs, and this has 8 virtual CPUs. Let me resize this DC to 4 so that I can create these machines. I hope you are able to follow me. I'm going to create resize this DC to, let's say, 2 virtual CPUs itself. It's going to restart. See, the reason why I'm going, because there is an issue with the number of cores available. Okay, number of cores available in the east-west location. So this DCVM itself having 8 virtual CPUs occupied, and we are creating 2 virtual machines, and each virtual machine needs earlier it was 4 virtual CPUs, 8 virtual CPUs for these 2 virtual machines itself. Already DC has 8 virtual CPUs, total 16 virtual CPUs we need in this region, but we cannot have that capacity, available. So that's why I'm resizing this DC to 4 virtual CPUs, okay, 2 virtual CPUs, and these machines each with the 2. So total we are going to consume 6 virtual CPUs, and that should work. So resize has been successfully completed, and the VM is up and running.
And what's the total user equals to 10 for,
So 10 users can connect.
but we have only 2 machines.
Yes, they can have.
Mm,
They don't worry. I mean, what's happening in the background?
okay, so those are going to be multi-session.
Multi sessions, and it is load balanced automatically.
Okay,
I think I have to create availability set. Okay, the DC is not up because to provision these and join them to domain, we need a DC to be up. Okay, it's up and running now. Okay, I'm going to create now. Review plus create. Again, it is failed. The provided value new OS or existing VNet in the line column number 16. I don't know what's error. Let's see. Let me give this guy. This
no,
is
how
all
do we
fine.
know which one is line number 166?
No, that's in the template. Okay, so it uses the
So I
template
think
to.
it's the problem with the virtual network, right? So there we said, create a new one, right? Instead of choosing an existing one.
Right. That's where I'm
That,
looking.
that,
I'm checking that only. Somewhere I see. Okay, this one. Yes.
yeah, out there.
Yeah, I missed that. Yeah, correct. Okay, these all are perfect. Okay.
Well, they made it so complex. I mean, is it the first time? I mean,
This deployment is really hectic.
is it something that you feel only the first time, or once you kind of used to it, you
See, you
it
once you know it is right, it is easy. I mean, we did not do multiple steps. We did only few steps, but it feel like we did multiple. Okay, what we have done, we have integrated the application, right?
Mm,
Right. Yeah, we integrated application with Azure AD. Then we created RDS tenant and RDS account. Then we just created this. Nothing. We did not do anything else. Only thing is we are new to the IT. We just set up the DC domain controller and we synchronize the users. That is something you guys, it's very new for you, right? That's why you're feeling like it's too much process. In every organization, if you want, if you are in the cloud, you will have a hybrid deployment where your users are synchronous to cloud. Okay, and this is something like like one time setup, right? You can keep on changing this number of machines and all, right? It's not a problem.
mm.
Okay, let's see. It's validating everything. If it is failed, then I'm going to skip because it's going to consume a lot of time. We have to redo the lab, or maybe we have to troubleshoot. I mean, when Microsoft support is not that great in identifying the problem. I was setting up for one of my student. He has his own business. Um, he asked me to train on this and implement it. So when I was learning this, I was very new, just 6 to 8 months back, more than 8 months back. So everything is like documentation is not clear, videos are not clear, no one explained it very well. Somebody will say AD and somebody will say Azure AD domain services. For me, it took a lot of time to
Right.
isolate
I
all
mean,
these things.
this in itself is so much confusing, right? You have AD, you have ADDS, you have domain controller, and whatnot.
Trust me, you go and search in the Google, you will not find the right direction. They will
Right.
say Azure domain service. Always, any video that Microsoft is making on this, they always referring to Azure domain services. They're not referring to AAD, on-prem AD. And AD is mandatory. Without AD, you cannot do anything. So there are a lot of people confuse you, like you don't need Azure domain services. You don't need any domain services. You can directly do with the Azure AD. So there are a lot of confusions with this. I thought of creating a video or or a documentation, so it will be helpful. Not getting time. I struggle a lot to learn for him. Still, you see, right? I'm like sometimes I'm confusing as well. But if you do one or two deployments, right, it looks easy only, and it's not completed yet. If you wanted to configure FS logic, again there is like bunch of process. Let's say you have two machines created, right? When a user log in to desktop 1 today and tomorrow you log into desktop 2, whatever he have shared in the desktop 1 profile, you wanted to have the same thing in desktop 2, that is not by default available. So you need to configure FS logic. So you need to get a storage account and you need to integrate your on-prem AD authentication with the Azure storage account. That is again a very big thing. And if you miss something in between, it's a problem. Let's see if we have any
But
storage
why
account.
why with on-prem ID? I mean, why not?
So for FS logic, we need it. I mean that files. I mean your profile has to be distributed. I'll show you. Configure FS logic for WVD Azure WVD.
And what about softwares? Let's say, with the image, you deploy only certain softwares, right?
Which one?
On the VMs,
Yeah. So you
let's
need to
say
install it
with
on
with
both
the
the machines. Okay.
right.
And
So
WVD.
so
Go ahead.
so with the VM, you let's say install only certain softwares. But now, I mean, depending upon the user needs, they need some other softwares. And let's say we provide the you know you know the ability for them to install whatever they need, right? But now when you let's say destroy these VMs after a while, right? When you'll have to apply, let's say, the patches or do the upgrades on all the VMs, right? You'll have to kind of record that information as well somewhere, right? So which all softwares did the user install outside of the image. So how do we do that?
I mean, why do you want your user to install? You need to control it, right? So you need
No, but you
to.
can't. I mean, see, let's say it's not one or two softwares. I mean, with the image, you let's say install 5 softwares for all the VMs. Now, depending upon again the needs, let's say one user wants you know 3 softwares, 3 other softwares. The other user wants another 3 softwares which are not common.
That is what
And
I'm
of course
saying.
you won't make your base image very bulky, right? With all the softwares which the users may not, I mean, not all users would need.
That is what I'm saying. So whatever the applications you need, that has to be installed on the server, right? I mean the Windows 10 image.
Hmm.
Let's say by default you have 5 apps. Later you go inside as an admin, you go inside the VM and install 10 apps. Okay,
Hmm.
and those 10 apps will
Hmm.
be visible in the WVD. And out of those 10 apps, Rakesh need only three, Adi need only
Hmm.
two. You give
Hmm.
access. When the WVD launches, the URL when you log in, right? It is going to give it is going to publish, I mean, all the application that you have access. You just need to double click the application. That's it. So you have control what application to be given to which user.
Hmm.
Okay. So that you have control.
No, but those applications, those software will still be installed on their VMs, right? Whether or not they need it.
Correct.
So basically, you're making your base image very bulky, and it's going to take good amount of time for you to spin up a new VM.
No, I did not get you.
So when you destroy the VM, right, to
Which
apply
VM?
the patches, the
Which
user
VM?
VMs, right, the
Let's
the
say this
host pool itself,
WBD 0. Yeah, this is one of the VM.
right,
Okay.
right. So now let's say if you have to apply patches and upgrades, right? So it's not that you're going to push them to each and every individual machine, right? So what you'll do is you'll destroy all these VMs, create a new um, image on it all in itself, and create new VMs.
I mean, did ever? I mean, I am not sure about that process. When we say apply patches, we apply the patches on
Yeah.
the VM itself. Why do we need to delete or destroy?
No,
No, we never destroy or delete any
see,
VM for patching, right?
because that's going to be. I mean, you'll have to be right. I mean, let's say when you do that, you'll have to pull up all the patches, all the upgrades that has happened, right? Now, what if you miss out on something, right? I mean, to find out and fix the issues, if they are, I mean, if they are, it's going to be a lot more painful than you picking up the latest image from the Microsoft itself, Microsoft Windows image itself, and pushing that onto the VMs, basically
No, I mean that's not
recreating
the
the
best
VMs, no.
practice. I don't know. I don't think if anybody follow that. See, now you are saying that let's say you have two machines and one machine you destroy and recreate it. What if there is
In
a
that
heavy
case,
load at the
we'll
time?
have to destroy both the machines, right? However, we'll have to keep the machine profiles and
No, no, no. That's not a best practice. I don't think
that's not the best
anybody
practice.
follows. Yes, it's not a best practice. You push the patches and
Hmm.
install it. If there is an issue, uh, let's troubleshoot. I mean, that's what I feel.
Hmm.
I've never seen that scenario because in our environment, I mean, okay, you put a specific WVD also, right? I don't think that is. You see the process of redeploying. What if there is an issue with the redeploy? And when you say destroy, you see a lot of
Hmm.
downtime. During that time, your users cannot connect, right? So
Right.
destroy
Right.
if it is not happening properly, it's again a problem. So there are like, I mean, there could be a lot of challenges.
Hmm. And you deploy those patches using automation account.
Yeah, update manager, or there can be anything else as well. Any other softwares.
Hmm.
Okay. So there is an issue with the domain join, guys. I really don't know what was the issue here. Okay, it has failed. Okay, domain join did not happen. Failed to join to this domain. Uh, okay, so the problem could be I think we missed one more step. If we go to VNet, here you will have a DNS. So here I have to add our this one DCIP address so that it can reach. Okay, this is one thing that I missed it. Is there a way to redeploy this? Oh, okay, it's not correct. So I think I can also do one more thing. I can add this manually. I can join this server to domain manually. First, let me go to WVD host ports. Oh, it's not created any host ports. Let me delete these machines again.
Hey, Kamlakar, I have to join
Yeah,
another call. I'm disconnecting. I'll connect tomorrow. Okay.
yeah, sure, Adi. We'll be completing in next 5 to 10 minutes, anyways.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Good
Yeah.
one. Bye.
So this is one big documentation which talks about how to enable FS logics.
Are we expecting any more resources to be created?
No,
No.
only these machines to be created, and the domain join extension has to be provisioned. So once the domain join is done, so we can use this URL to connect. We need to provide access to on-prem users like Adi or your account. Then we can try to test that.
Mm.
This is still in transitioning state. Let's wait for a few more minutes. Great. So the deployment is successful. Let me go to extensions. Yes, so these are joined to the domain. Let me go to virtual desktop, host pools, click on this. There are two virtual machines you can see here, right? And so this is what application group. You are going to add applications and you are going to provide application access to here. And users, okay, here I should have an option to add users. Session host. Okay, here how do I add? Okay, yeah, this is where we are adding already added two users. Okay, so let me connect to this. So I'll sign out from here. Now I will connect to this URL and I'll use this account. So this is the URL your users are going to use to connect. I'm using on-prem ID user, I mean credentials. I'm sorry.com. Okay, you see, session desktop is exist. I'll connect to this. You see it's connecting and the same password I'm going to use it. And user is going to get Windows 10 access.
Wow, finally.
Yeah.
So, Kamal, when would you use WVD as opposed to, let's say, if I just need five VMs, right? Five machines. I would rather go for creating five different virtual machines than setting up a WVD.
But how do you connect? See, there you have to use VPN to connect, right? It's not recommended to enable public IP, right? Here you don't need to enable public IP, you don't need to enable RDP port, and this entire connection is encrypted with HTTPS, and you have two level of authentication, right? So that's the beauty of this.
Okay, okay, okay. I see, I see.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
here you're
You have,
providing the access to virtual machines through, the web
yeah, and
URL.
your end user doesn't know which server is connected, right? You
Mm,
just use this and enter, and everything is as usual for them. And if you give any application, as let's say that your payroll application, let's say Facebook, just give any application you publish there, and they will just see the applications here. They just need to click
mm,
on the application here. It will launch same as the session desktop. Okay.
Okay, you mean to say, let's say if I provide them the access to, let's say any software, let's say R or
Correct.
Python, right?
Right. Right.
Or anything else, they'll show up here
They just have to click on the application. It
or
will launch the application here itself in the browser.
in the browser itself. So I don't need
Yeah.
to go into the machine and open
Nothing.
R or
Nothing.
Python
No
here.
need. No need. Let's
Okay, it's
say
just like Citrix then, right?
yes. Yes. Same.
Mm.
I will just try to copy.
Only thing is, now you'll have to manage these VMs, right?
Yeah. You see here, right? I cannot copy paste any file here. I copied
Hmm.
here. I cannot paste it. This is how your data is secure. Nobody can copy from there to here. You're restricting your organization data not to go beyond this. Only the text files are copied. Let's say if I want to copy this, I can copy only the text file. It's a notepad. You see, it is giving a warning and all. So only text file is copied. Text is copied, not the files.
That's it. Okay.
Okay. So this is how we set up. I'll upload all the recordings by tomorrow. Um, I'll have my Wi-Fi issue fixed by tomorrow. So I'm connected to mobile network. So I'll upload all the recordings to the Google Drive. All right.
So,
Thank you so much, guys. Let's start a new topic tomorrow. Okay. Bye.
yeah. All right. Thanks.